What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, here with a very exciting episode. At least I think it's super exciting because I'm going to try to shed some light on a few watchmakers that I think are consistently kind of overlooked and written off. And it's a huge bummer because, listen guys, it's 2021, okay? And if anything, with everything that's happened and all this perspective we have, I feel like we should have broadened our horizons. I feel like we should be able to take inventory of the things that we like and the things we appreciate. And these watchmakers, these four freaking watchmakers in 2021, supposed to be the future, we still write them off, we overlook them, no one cares. And I apologize because it's far too early in the episode for me to start yelling. And this isn't even a rant episode, actually. This is supposed to be a top watch picks episode where I just do a list. But I needed that. It is 12:36 p.m. Let's get down to business. Okie dokie guys, so I'm very excited because today's list is kind of diverse. We actually have two German watchmakers, and that's great because the number one complaint I get on this channel is you're ugly, but then the second complaint is you don't talk about the Deutschland enough. So I'm gonna try to remedy that today, okay? The first watchmaker is from the Deutschland, and it's Glasuta Original. Now I apologize for my ignorant American pronunciation of Glasuta, but you know, I'm an ignorant American. I don't know what to tell you, but I've been fairly consistent across the board, like for the entirety of my channel's existence. Glasuta Original is an incredible watchmaker, and the amount of watch they give you for the price you pay is crazy. It is insane. And I'm not just talking about these asymmetrical, really complicated, highly finished, highly detailed dress watches. I'm also talking about some really cool divers, some simple but well executed upon divers that look really rough and tumble and still sharp and smooth and elegant in a way. And that shows a very broad ability when it comes to craftsmanship and design language as a whole. I just think they're ridiculous watchmakers. Like, for me, the Panomatic Lunar, that's like a grail of mine. And again, it's not because they're super unattainable. In fact, you get a very highly complicated watch for under 10 grand. It's that the one I want is pretty much unattainable. They came out with a Panomatic Lunar salmon dial, which is very, very hard to find because it was highly limited. And if I could have gotten one when I learned about it, I would have, but I couldn't. So I didn't, and I kind of missed out. But you know, the blue dial variant, the kind of white dial variant, they're both gorgeous. And of course, the Senator series is just incredible. They have tourbillons. They have incredibly highly complicated watches. But it seems like no one really wants to talk about them. But I've been yelling about them from the rooftop since I learned about this company. But yeah, another thing I really appreciate about Glasuta Original is that they don't just take this design prowess and leave it to the men. They also have a really nice feminine collection. And it's not just like one watch. They have a bunch of really cool watches for the gentler of sexes. And I really do like a whole bunch of their watches, and the amount of watch you get for the price of these watches. Take a look at a Panomatic Lunar, excuse me. The fact that you can get this watch for under 10 grand brand new. Insane. And I understand that that kind of asymmetrical dial layout isn't for everyone, but I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. And Glasuta Original, they deserve to be, you know, bumped up a little more in my opinion. Now moving on to a watchmaker that kind of brings us back to the beginning of my channel, and that would be Frederick Constant. Now, Frederick Constant is currently owned by Citizen, and Frederick Constant themselves own Alpina. So it's not like this is a tiny company, but it is a company that seems to be kind of overlooked. Now, I have a lot of experience with them because, again, I've owned the Frederick Constant Moon Timer, which was a dress watch with a 100-meter water resistance rating, a threaded crown, a moon phase, a date complication. It was essentially a modified Salida movement, beautiful display case back with a decorated rotor, just a whole bunch of finishing. Got that watch for under $800, brand new. Now that was back around 2016. If you were to try to find a watch with that amount of detail, nowadays, fully Swiss made and everything, impossible. That watch would cost, you know, over $1,000 easily. Now, the watch I want to talk about from Frederick Constant today, which I think is just the perfect example of why they deserve a lot more credit than they get, is a bit more expensive than, under $800. It's actually under $5,000, just under $5,000. But let's talk about what this watch is, and you will realize that if it had any other manufacturer's name on it, this watch would be probably tens of thousands of dollars, and I'm not exaggerating. Let's talk about the Frederick Constant slimline monolithic manufacture and why the components in this watch are redonkulous. Now you look at this watch and you notice something right above the 6 o'clock. And is that a tourbillon? Like, is it an open heart? What is it? I guess it's kind of like an open heart. Like, you're seeing the heart, except it's like a Tony Stark heart. Let me explain. Frederick Constant has replaced 26 components in one of their normal mechanical movements, right? And why would they do this? Is it just to do something different? Is it just because, oh, we want to put a piece of silicone in there? No, not really. Where the balance spring, and level would be, is this silicone component that, again, removes 26 other components out of the equation altogether. By doing this, they were able to make this watch less susceptible to magnetism, 4 times lighter, and it's much less susceptible to temperature deviations. Now, okay, so they've made, I guess, a more robust movement. That's fine, I guess, right? All right, so I'm back. As you can see, I'm actually wearing a different shirt right now, and I have a little bit of boo-boo on my hand. Oh well. I just wanted to take a few moments to talk about why this Frederick Constant is so crazy, and after I filmed the entirety of that episode, I kind of realized just the most concise way of describing how crazy this watch is. So when we look at a watch that is 28,800 BPH, right? It beats 8 times in a second, all right? That is known as 4 hertz. And even at 28,800 BPH, that looks incredibly smooth, right? That's very appealing to the eye, makes the second hand glide across the dial. But this Frederick Constant, with those silicone components, it's at 40 hertz, which means it beats 80 times in a second. That is crazy smooth. And if that doesn't describe to you how nuts it is, I don't know what will. So again, your normal 28,800 BPH movement, that's 4 hertz. This one with a silicone component is at 40 hertz, making this an incredibly smooth movement. Now, I know people are definitely going to be in the comment section being like, well, what about Seiko Spring Drive? Yeah, that's insane. Don't get me wrong. Grand Seiko Spring Drive, I guess it kind of only beats once and it just glides forever. That's awesome. That is awesome. But Grand Seiko, like even Grand Seiko, has much more brand equity than someone like Frederick Constant. Like, people know Seiko, and by proxy, people are aware of Grand Seiko. But people might know Citizen, and I think there are some watch collectors that don't even really pay attention to Frederick Constant. So that is nuts. And again, with all this crazy innovation coming in just under $5,000, if they don't deserve credit for that, I don't know who would. I'm stuttering because this is just blowing my mind. What I'm trying to say is this innovation should have us as watch collectors just freaking out. And so when I saw this, and I learned about it on Instagram actually, I was just so excited because Frederick Constant, this, I hope, puts them on the map. All right, moving on to another German watchmaker, Damasco. Now, I grew up with this guy. His name's Preston. He actually has a fairly sizable Instagram presence, and it's funny because we went to school with each other in southern New Hampshire. We grew up, and then after we both graduated, we didn't keep in touch all that much, but then we kind of found each other on Instagram. This was right before I started the channel, and he liked watches, and he was like, whoa, you like watches? And I was like, whoa, you like watches? And then we kind of reconnected over watches. But long story short, he had a Damasco, really cool sports watch. He's raved about it forever. He said it's one of the most solid watches he's ever owned, and that's really badass. And everything from the bracelet to the watch head, it looked incredible. And so the more I paid attention to Damasco, I realized they really do kind of deserve to be on a list of highly underrated watches, and it's because they're kind of taking the place of Zinn. Here's what I mean by that, and I know people are freaking out that I said that. Zinn is incredible. I love Zinn, but finding them secondhand even, the prices are starting to just skyrocket. And Damasco, I feel like is still the last bastion of super attainable, like really tough, impressive German watchmaking. Now, I could be incorrect about that assessment, but that's how I see it. Someone educate me in the comment section, as I'm sure you will. But here's why I think Damasco specifically is incredibly underrated. Number one, simple yet effective, right? There's a bunch of dial markers, but it's not like super busy dials, and essentially it's just white and black contrast. High visibility, super tough. I mean, they make tools, no bones about it. Their watches are tools. And what I love about it, and I might not partake of these watches, but what I love is that they offer left-hand variants of their complicated watches. So they have chronographs where if you want the pushers and the crown on the other side of the watch, they will do that. And you look at other watchmakers, and it's like Panerai has some left dial variants. Tudor has a Pelagos with a left hand variant. And I'm sure there's other watchmakers, but you look at the big ones like Rolex, no. Seiko, no. And most of them, like the vast majority, do not offer any left-hand variants, especially not with their complicated watches. So the fact that Damasco makes really tough, really functional tools, then also gives you the option to have a left-hand variant, that's really badass. They're highly underrated. And again, they're fairly attainable cost-wise. Like, Damasco's crushing it. And last but not least, when it comes to highly underrated watchmakers of 2021, Mido. Now Mido, you know, me being a vintage watch guy, I've always paid attention to Mido, and their vintage offerings have always been very fun, and I really do love vintage Mido. When it came to modern stuff, I wasn't really paying attention to them all that much until the freaking Mido Baroncelli Heritage 3. This watch, if it was any other Swiss watchmaker, would cost probably twice, if not 3 times the price. You look at the dial, you look at the beautiful execution all over. It is such a stunner. It's incredible to me that Mido is not part of the conversation more. People want to talk about Longines, you know, people talk about Tissot more than they talk about Mido, and it's a huge bummer. Number one, a ton of variants. Again, whether you want a really superb dress watch like the Mido Baroncelli, whether you want a super compressor, or just a straight up 3 o'clock diver, they have a bunch of them to choose from, and within each watch, there's a ton of different variants. Guys, the Mido Ocean Star Tribute, you want like a two-tone, I think it's kind of like rose gold plated, or is it actually, let me see. It's PVD coated. That's what I wanted to address. Yes, so it's not plated technically, it's PVD coated. But it's a really nice contrast with that kind of navy blue. You have my favorite, which would be the Ocean Star Tribute with that olive drab and the nice orange second hand. Or my second favorite, which would be the Ocean Star Tribute with the kind of two-tone bezel and handset. It's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And now let's talk about the price. There's a whole bunch of super highly functional watches with incredible detail from a really nice watchmaker with a ton of heritage. And again, Swiss made, if that matters to you. I don't know. I just figured I'd throw it in there. All for around $1,000 or under. That's not enough for you. So when it comes to complications, when it comes to functionality, when it comes to detail, usability, and variation, I think a lot of the watchmakers, like most of them I spoke about today, they have it, but Mido absolutely has it. And again, people just want to write them off. People want to overlook them. And I think it's mostly Swatch Group's fault with Mido specifically. They want to focus on, well, Omega, and that's it. But let me be the bearer of bad news, Swatch Group. You have other watchmakers other than Omega, period. I know it's crazy, huh? I blew your mind. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you agree with me. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. Leave a comment and let me know. But who would you add to this list? Do you think the 4 watchmakers I spoke about today deserve to be on the list? And let's kind of compile some other really underrated watchmakers in the description below. But don't just leave the name. Give me a little blurb as to why you feel the way you feel, because I want to continue the dialogue in the comment section. Because although you might be watching this episode today, some other people, some maybe beginner watch enthusiasts are going to watch this in the future, and having that information, it'll teach them a bunch. So guys, thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, give it a thumbs up, hit that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Consider joining the channel. Again, if you join the channel membership, it's like YouTube's Patreon. You get access to that members only Discord chat, and you get some extra content over there as well. Check out my personal website, thetimetellershop.com. That is the #1 place to find affordable vintage luxury watches. There's a whole bunch of ways to support the channel, as you know, but the easiest one is just to keep doing what you're doing and watching the content, because what is a channel without a viewer? So I really do appreciate each and every one of you. You've made my dreams come true. We're at 158,000 subscribers, I think, and it's insanity. So thank you guys. I love each and every one of you. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I'll see you on the next one. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.